If you want to work as an audio engineer professionally, you've got to get some basic business practices in order. Hey guys, today I figured I'd show you how I organize and make my invoicing for clients. So I don't pay for any fancy service or anything. I just use Google Docs, and I've noticed other engineers sometimes struggle with staying organized in terms of who owes them money and keeping track of how much they're making and so on. So today I figured that I would show you guys how I do it for free, and if you like my system, you're free to use it. Also, I'll be making some supplementary information for this video available only to my Patreon patrons. So if you find this information useful and you want to access invoicing templates and such, then head on over to my Patreon page, which you can find at patreon.com/CatoNoise. So with that said, before we start, I also wanted to let you guys know that for the purposes of this video, I'm making dummy folders and documents. So you won't be seeing my actual invoicing folder, but you'll still be able to understand exactly how I organize my invoicing system, just minus the names of actual clients and dollar amounts. So I hope that's okay with you guys. Cool. So first of all, before you even get to invoicing, it's good to have some information in order in terms of how you charge people. For example, know how much you charge per hour if you offer flat rates for services, and then know how much you charge as a flat rate for various services. And also know if you have a minimum. So for example, a 2-hour minimum for recording services maybe. And also, it's good to decide if you'll charge a deposit just to get started. And if so, what percentage of the total that's going to be. Some standards that I've seen in studios are 2-hour minimums for sessions, which makes so much sense, especially if it's a recording session, just because of the sheer amount of setup involved, right? And I've also seen anywhere from 20% deposit to 50% deposit to book a session. But I personally don't always charge a deposit, and I know studios sometimes vary the deposit depending on the client. So for example, if the client is someone that I know socially somehow, or if they're a friend of a friend, there's hopefully more of an incentive for them not to screw me over. So I sometimes won't charge a deposit if they're doing a very short session and we aren't going into a big studio where I would have to pay a studio fee no matter what. I've also seen studios charge someone a higher deposit amount if they've previously had trouble getting the person to pay the remaining balance for a session after the fact. Another thing to decide beforehand is if, for example, you're charging a deposit just to book a session, you should decide if you'll then expect the rest of the money for that session at the start or after the end of that session. If you're not sure when the session will end, then you might want to do the second option here. But if the session is a very defined time frame and you've had concerns hunting down people for the money, then maybe the first option is best for you. Either way, it's important to decide that and let your client know beforehand so they're not surprised. So anyway, basically, you can make decisions about your money policies, but you don't have to always stick to them precisely. And you can vary them based on the situation. But it's good to have these policies in order because then you can send them to a potential client as soon as they start talking to you about working together. And then there aren't surprises for them later on. You guys have already agreed on what to expect in terms of the money. And that frees you up to focus on the creative stuff. And you don't have to worry as much about money disagreements later on. So I really recommend deciding on your money policies and actually writing them down somewhere, whether that's publicly on your website or just in your notes somewhere to copy and paste or reference whenever you have a new client inquiry. So with that said, let's look at more or less the next step, and I'll show you guys my invoicing and quoting system that I use. Okay guys, so I'm going to start with the folder that I use. So basically I have a folder on Google Drive where I have all my invoices. Again, this one's a dummy folder, so I'm not actually showing you guys my real folder here. I'm just showing you guys dummy folder so you don't see, names of clients and prices and stuff, because I feel like that would violate some people's privacy. So basically, this is a dummy folder. It looks just like the one that I actually use. It just has names and stuff taken out. So basically what I do is I have an invoice folder, and then within that folder I have these main folders. So I have folders for previous years. So I just made 2 years here. So I'll have previous years and then I'll have the current year as well. And basically once an invoice gets paid, I then drag and drop it into the folder for whatever year it was paid in. So basically I have this dummy invoice, and if this invoice were to get paid, what I would do is make sure that the money goes through and everything, and it's not, the payment isn't revoked or anything within the first few days. And then I take this invoice and I just drag and drop it into this folder for this year, since it would have been this year. So basically, when I go to do my taxes, I then can bring everything that's in here, and I have an exact record of what I got paid for all my freelance stuff. So I don't have to worry about finding all that information, because it can get really discombobulated and disorganized really fast. And this kind of helps me keep it all in one place. So I have this, and then I have, the jobs where I get an actual paycheck and I bring all that stuff in. So this, and then, I teach, so I get an actual paycheck through that. I have a corporate gig that's like 1 day a week that I get a paycheck through. So I bring all that stuff in, and that's basically it. So that's what these folders are for. And then whenever we start a new year, so 2019 is coming around. So when 2019 starts, I will make a new folder that says 2019 paid invoices, and I just keep going from there. And then this folder I have here is basically for canceled things. So if I send out a quote and then they never end up taking me up on the gig, or if I start working on something and then they're like, oh, we changed our minds, we want to make changes and then come back to you, or, we changed our minds for whatever reason, and they cancel, I will then put the invoice or the quote into this section. And that does happen. It's not, I don't think it's anything that you should take personally. It's like, sometimes people just want to put out feelers and see how much stuff costs before they are really ready to do a project. So that's what this folder is for. And I like to just kind of keep these here because I like to keep records of things. I feel like it's a little more organized, a little more efficient. But that's basically what that folder is here for. So basically these Google Docs are the bulk of what we're going to look at today. So I basically have 2 types of Google Docs that I make in this folder, this invoices folder. And so one is a quote and the other is an invoice. And so usually my documents here, they start with either quote or invoice. I just put dummy here for the sake of the YouTube video and copied some documents over into here. But they're always either a quote or an invoice. So a quote is what I would make before someone hires me, if they're just wondering how much it's going to cost for me to work on, their project, their short film, their music, whatever it is. I can send them a quote. And in the quote, there's a few more pieces of information that we'll get to, so you can see the difference. But they're pretty similar. Invoice and quote are very similar. An invoice is what I then send to a client when they owe me money, whether that's a deposit to start or it's a completed project. So it can be either one. But it's basically, an invoice is if you're going to owe me money to some extent, that's what you get. And then a quote is if you're just wondering how much it costs. So normally what'll happen in this folder is I have these folders, and then I have anything that's open right now. So if I send out a quote and I haven't heard back from someone yet, it'll be out here and it won't be in one of these folders. Or if I sent out an invoice and I haven't been paid yet, then I'll have it out here and I'm not going to have it in one of the paid folders. And that's basically it. That's the whole structure. It's pretty simple. It's actually really, really simple, but it does work. It helps me stay organized. It helps me keep track of everything, and it helps me stay out of trouble in terms of taxes and stuff. So that's basically that. So now I'm going to show you guys each of these documents that I put together. And again, I removed all names and stuff, but some of the documents have a little more detail than others, just to show you the structure of them. And just before we get started here, guys, I just wanted to let you know I'm definitely going over invoice and quote 1 with you guys today, but I might leave out quote 2. And depending on how long the video is, I might leave this for my Patreon patrons, because this quote 2 actually has more detail on specific line items and things like that I would include for specific examples. So for example, if I'm doing a short film, I might include certain line items in the quote. So it's just a little more detail than the basic invoice and quote. So if I don't go over this today, I'm sorry, but it will be available to my Patreon patrons. Cool. So here's my dummy invoice. So basically, they all start the same. And what I do whenever I make a new one is I will go over to an existing invoice, and then I just click on it and right click, and I will go make a copy. And when I make a copy, it's creating, it's really slow. When I make a copy, I'll then rename it with the next number in the series. I just put 42 here because that's the answer to everything. And I'll rename it, and I'll add the client name, and I leave my name in here, and whether it's an invoice or a quote. But basically that's what I do whenever I want to create a new one, is I just make a copy, and then I'll come in here and I'll have to change out these numbers and everything to make it fit whatever the new invoice is that I'm making. So they all have the same structure is I guess what I'm trying to tell you guys. But yeah, so they all start this way. They have this header with my name and then the date. So I'll change the date each time. This is my number. This is my actual Google number, guys. So please don't abuse it. I'll have to change it if you abuse it. It does go to my cell phone. I do sleep at night. Please don't call me in the middle of the night. I had issues with people video calling me and trying to call me on Facebook Messenger in the middle of the night at all hours, all the time. And so I had to uninstall Facebook Messenger. So I really don't want to have to change my Google Voice number. I believe these last 4 digits are actually spell my name, Cato. I think, if I'm remembering right. I'm not sure. But I think these last 4 digits actually spell my name. So I would like to keep it. But if you guys abuse it, I will change it. That's why we have Google Voice numbers. So please don't do that. But if you want to contact me to talk about something like a project, to work together, something like that, then it's here. This is my number. Yeah. Putting that online, that's a risk. So anyway, then I have my email here. This is my email. You guys can email me too. If you ever want to talk about audio stuff or whatever. And then I have this here. It just says invoice, just so they know what it is, to make it look more official. And then I put the number here. So I change this every time too, along with changing the number up here. And that's basically that. So that's the header. And then right here, I have 2, and then I'll put the client's name. So if it's a company, I'll put the company here. Sometimes I'll put the point of contact here. Just whatever the client name is, just to specify. And sometimes, companies will care about what the details are that you put here. So, you might want to check. But yeah, so basically I'll put the client name here, and then I'll put here audio services. This pretty much stays the same each time it says audio services, because if it's a big company or something like that, they might not, they might need the clarification that it's audio services. It's like, oh yeah, that was the audio person that we hired. So I do that, and then I'll put the specific service here in this text. So it might be voiceover work. It might be tracking dialogue. It might be tracking drums. It might be whatever it is, I just put it there. So that's that. And then we get to the actual line items. So when I'm filling these out, a lot of times it's just one line, I'll just be like, we spent 4 hours mixing a song, and I'll just write that here. So I write the number of hours, and then I write hours. So you have the units here of mixing or editing or tracking or whatever it is. So I'll put that here, and then I put the unit price. This is the lowest price that I charge sometimes here. It'll change depending on the studio. A lot of studios plus my fee ends up being like $60. But yeah, just whatever the price is per unit. So a lot of times my unit ends up being hours, but it could be, whenever I do a flat rate for a mix, for example, it could be, the number would be 1 here, and then it would be mix of, whatever the song name is. And then it would be, the whole price, the flat rate price. So there's that. And then I just add those up, multiply the 20 by the 42 here. Again, 42, because it's the answer. And then you get the total here, and then I put this here, the total here, and then here. And I have this line for tax. I'm not really sure why I included it. I felt like it made it more official, but I never actually add tax. So I don't know. It's just something that's there right now. So once I fill all that out, I then double check that this is all accurate and good. So I have this little part so people know how to pay me. So basically I have, please make all checks payable to, and you could put your name here. And then I have my PayPal info and my Cash App info. And I kind of like the Cash App better because they don't take a fee. They just take the fee when you transfer from Cash App to your bank. So I can let it go for a while and then just do one big money transfer for a very low flat rate fee. So I really like that. But, and a lot of times when people send me PayPal, they forget that there's a fee that's taken out of it. And it's like, if I'm not charging them much, if I'm just charging them $20 an hour, it's like, it kind of stinks when the fee gets taken out of it, and it's then even less. But at least you're getting paid, right? So I've thought about putting a little message here that says, please accept the fee or add on for the fee of paying through PayPal. But even when I've had that on invoices, people never do. So I don't know. If you guys have any answers for how to deal with that, I'd love to know that. Maybe I should just add a PayPal tax here or something and just assume that the people are using PayPal. Yeah. So that's basically it. So I have my payment information here, and then I have a little thanks here just to be nice. And that's my whole invoice. So hopefully you guys can kind of see how this works and how you could then replace the information here. If we add another line item here, we just right click and we go add row, which is insert row below right here. And then you could just fill it in more. So you could be like 53, and then you could be like flat rate. Oh, I can't type here. Flat rate mixing or something like that, right? And then I, fill it all in, and then you just add that to the total. So it's pretty simple. If you then decide you don't want another line here, we can just go delete row and it's gone. So it's pretty simple. And that's basically it. And then once I have this all filled out and I am ready to go, I will then go down here and go file, and where is it here? Download as, I believe. Downloads as PDF document. And then I just download it and it's there. And sometimes I've noticed what happens is when you then open the invoice, sometimes it's, see, like this. The formatting changes from the Google Drive to the actual PDF. So what I'll do is I'll always look at it and make sure that this didn't get messed up. And then I'll kind of fix it. So I'll go. I think that was basically the only thing here. I was messing with this earlier, so that's probably what happened. Yeah, so see, this goes on to a second line too. So I would then go in. Yep. Maybe that'll work. And then I'll re-download it. So a lot of times I'll go delete it off my computer and re-download just so it has the right naming convention still in place. But I'm not going to do that right now because I'm lazy. So then I open it up, make sure everything looks good. Yeah, so this formatting looks good now. It has all the info. I'll double check everything like the client name, the service, make sure I got the number of hours right, make sure I didn't forget anything. And then I just send them this PDF because PDFs look the same on everyone's computer, right? So that's how I do it. And then once they send me the money, I then drag this Google Doc into the paid folder. And I can just delete this. A lot of times I'll delete the PDF off my computer right after I send it to them. So that's basically that. That's my invoice. Now I'm going to show you guys my dummy quote. So basically what I do, it's very similar to what I do with the invoice, but there are some differences. Most of the differences are down here, as you'll see. But basically I have my name, I have the header, everything's the same here. I have the quote number. So I'll change the quote number each time, just increment it up by whatever. So then, I'll change the client name here. I'll change the client name down here. I'll fill in what type of service it is right here. I'll leave audio services here. And then I'll change the quantity if I have to. And this is just a quote, so it's estimates, right? So I'll be like, oh, I think this project's going to take me however many hours. So then I'll have that, and then hours doing whatever the service is. So tracking, mixing, voiceover, sound design, whatever it is. And then I will put the price per unit. So for hours, that tends to be pretty easy to figure out. When it's like a flat rate for a thing or making a sound effect or sound design, it can be a little harder to figure out. But I kind of just do my best estimate, and then I fill in the total here. And if I want to add lines, it's the same deal as with the invoice. I just add rows. So I'll insert a row or I'll delete rows. Again, I do copy the documents each time I do this. So I'll go to a previous quote and I'll copy. So a lot of times I'll do it from here. I'll go make a copy and it pops open, and I'll just delete this copy of, and I'll increment the number up, and then I'll fill in the client name here, and then I will make sure it's in the right folder. So normally it's just my normal Cato invoices folder, and then I hit OK, and then it makes the document. And then I can just close out of this one right here, and then I change everything in this one. So yeah, so basically it's very similar to the invoices, right? So the difference is all down here. So I have a lot of kind of disclaimer type stuff down here. So again, I have the same stuff here for payment, right? Make all checks payable to PayPal, Cash App. You can put whatever other ways you accept payment right here. I have the thanks, and then here's the big difference. So here I have a thing that says this is a quote for services unless explicitly agreed prior to commencement of work. Payment will be due in full upon completion of the work or services provided. And that's just, to be a little more clear and make sure that, we're not going to have any disagreements about when payment is due. Because I don't want to have to hunt people down for money. That sucks. So I just figure anywhere we can seem more professional and try to clarify a little bit more, it'll help me avoid people who aren't going to act as professional. It's like the like attracts like type of thing. And it just gives them less of a reason to give me trouble later on. It's like it was in writing here, given to you. So I have that there. And then I also have the required to start project section here. So it's whatever I need to start the project. And then I have whatever percentage deposit I'm going to charge them. So like I said earlier, sometimes I decide not to charge a deposit. Sometimes I charge 20%, it's pretty standard. Sometimes I might charge a little bit more. But I just put that there depending on the project. I might change it with each quote that I do. But that's basically it. So a lot of times with materials, need to start a project, it might be I need the raw files that you're using. I need the on-location sound. I need, whatever you tracked already. I need whatever it is that the project requires. I will have that here listed. And I try to think ahead of time, like what I might be missing that I'm going to need. Because sometimes you don't think of things right away. You have to kind of be like, okay, think about each step that I'm going to go through with this project. What am I going to need from this person in order to complete it? Because that's the worst if, there's a misunderstanding and they think you're going to create whatever this thing is, when it's like, no, this is the quote that I gave you for just mixing your thing. I'm not tracking it or whatever the thing is. So yeah, that's basically my invoice and quoting system. And I hope you guys found some of this useful. I'd love if you could let me know in the comments what you think, because I know some of you guys might find this boring, but I also noticed that there's a lot of videos on how to use specific plugins or how to do specific mixing techniques or whatever it is, but there's not a lot on the actual business side of audio engineering. And I think this is really important. It can really help you improve yourself as a business. And I figured I'd do this to kind of fill in that gap that I saw online. But if, maybe there aren't a lot of videos on that because you guys have it all under control and there's not a lot of interest. So let me know if you guys found this interesting or useful or helpful. And I can kind of cater my future videos based on that feedback. So let me know. Cool. So that's basically it, guys. Thanks for watching today. And I'm going to switch to my outro now. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys liked this video, and please let me know what you think in the comments below. For today's question, I want to know, how do you stay organized in the studio? So if you do freelance work, I want to know what tips you have for the rest of us that are running our own business or existing in the gig economy, or just any studio, audio, or business-related organizational tips would be great. So please leave your answers in the comments below. So anyway, thanks, guys. As usual, if you like this video, please tell your friends about my ad-free channel, watch my other videos, or check out my Patreon. I'll be coming out with new videos every other Wednesday, and thanks for watching. Okay. I'm like blind, so half the time when I do eye makeup, I feel like I'm messing it up because I can't even focus on it. It's really annoying. I don't know what to talk about. I could probably do a shot of me burping over and over this time or something like that. I just made a business page on Facebook, so go check that out. It's like Facebook-Cato Noise Official, I think is my URL. But I just made that because I wanted to mess around with Instagram business account. So I did that. And then part of that is they make you make a Facebook business page, which I'd been resisting for a really long time because I didn't want to manage 2 Facebook pages, but now I have 2. So check that out. I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff that's audio themed there. So there'll be more content because I wasn't posting as much on my personal page before because I was worried about annoying my friends and family by posting too much. So now I'm going to do a little more and see how that goes. So go check out that page and like and follow, and that would be awesome. And then we can all talk about audio stuff on that page and not bug anyone else. So check it out. It'll be fun. I don't know what else. I'm tired. I should stop this recording.